Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is DB333, and welcome to Watch Round 4 of the New Order, Last Days of Europe. Now, last time we hopped into HoI 4, at least for a pre-recorded series, we hopped in as Germany. We elected Reinhard Heydrich as his successor, we cheated our way through the Civil War, and then we went through the rest of his content, which I won't go into, just in case you don't know all the twists and turns that Heydrich's path goes down. It's a fun series. If you haven't checked it out yet, I recommend you do. I also recommend you check out the currently uploading America LP that I'm doing. And while I'm asking you for stuff, we're trying to get 1,000 subs by the end of the month. So if you guys could help me out to get to that goal, we'll have some reward milestones along the way. Once we hit 800 subs, which is going to happen in like a few days, it might already have happened, depending on when this is. We'll play Japan. At around 900 subs, we'll play Omsk. And at 1,000 subs, we'll go ahead and play Sergei Tabaritsky and do Funny Clockman Comey. So, hey, go ahead and hit the sub button if you haven't already. And let's go ahead and get into the new update. Now, I wasn't certain I wanted to go back to this region, but inspired by the release of a very new Cyberpunk 2077, I figured, you know what, we'll go ahead and do it. It's a new country that finally got their content cutting floor. They're supposed to be the canon reunifier of Siberia, if I'm not mistaken, so we're finally doing something related to canon. Though how closely we'll be sticking to the supposed canon, I'm not quite sure. Go ahead and select the scenario, and we're going to be playing as Novosibirsk, centered in and around the largest city in Siberia. The Federation of Novosibirsk in Altai rose out of the fracturing of the Central Siberian Republic. Under the leadership of a so-called Siberian Falcon, the strongman Alexander Pakrishkin, it forms one of the largest, most powerful splinter states in the region. One of the primary benefactors of Bukharin's Siberian plan, Novosibirsk itself possesses both an enormous population and an equally impressive industrial base, matched in capacity only by the prodigious agricultural lands of Altai. These dual advantages situate the state well, providing an economic base from which to grow. Not all is well, however. The young federation faces threatening neighbors, socialist labor agitation, and many decisions regarding the growing influence of elitist groupings within the government. Influence strongly opposed by the unofficial second man within the Federation, Vasily Shukskin, the mayor of Barnaul. Though none can say for certain whether the Federation will weather the many challenges ahead, all agree that, should it correctly leverage the significant advantages granted by both position and history, it could serve as the nucleus of a powerful and ever-expanding nation. So yeah, we played in this region before. The first Russia game I ever completed, at least, was our neighbors to the north up here, Tomsk. So I was a little weary about wanting to head into Central Siberia again and play them, but I figured, you know what, it still looks like a good amount of fun. I'll give it a play. We'll give it a swing and just have some fun. And plus, you know, Cyberpunk is a broken fucking mess right now, and my computer can barely run it. Even though it's not that bad a computer. So, you know what? We're going to be playing this instead. Though I do have a video out on Cyberpunk, which again, just chill a little bit. If you haven't checked it out, please do. But yeah, we'll go ahead and hit the start button and load on in. From the ashes of the Central Siberian Republic and Bukharin's industrial brainchild within it, the Siberian plan, arises the Federation, when anarchists, socialists, and eventually insane medievalists shattered the Republic, and the effete idealists in government proved unable to respond effectively. Fighter ace and the Republic's former Marshal of Aviation, Alexander Pakrishkin, the Siberian Falcon, took matters into his own hands. Declaring independence from the centralist government, he proclaimed himself president of the lands in and around Siberia's industrial capital of Novosibirsk with Altai, which had also declared independence, joining soon after. From that city, Pakrishkin has, in the years subsequent, established a strong foundation for his nation-state. Though his regime is fairly authoritarian, and his administration is dominated by the Solovsky politicians originating from military and security services, and to provide security for the many hostile forces within the volatile region for the enormous population it encompasses. This security has enabled rapid economic expansion, which in turn has led to the rise of the national conglomerates, enormous businesses, firms that are increasingly demonstrating their influence over the young state. Many welcome this change, eager for the wealth promised, but others decry this increasingly authoritarian centralization promoted by the firm's Solovsky partisans. None decry it more than Vasily Shukskin, the mayor of Barnaul and the second most important man in the Federation after only Pakrishkin himself. Extremely popular for common people, he promises to be a thorn in the side of any attempt to further restrict freedoms in the pursuit of the industrials or Solovsky agendas. And besides such internalized challenges, many external ones exist as well. Novosibirsk is a prize that all within Siberia would and will kill to acquire. If a federation is to survive the coming storm, its leadership must leverage the advantage of location, industry, and population with which it has been blessed, or risk becoming little more than a province within another nation. So it can mandate the federation's industrial conglomerates and their influence within the nation can go ahead and expand the economic and political base of a federation while managing tensions along various fronts, and then will develop experimental yet powerful military machines through unique research and design mechanics. So this really is the cyberpunk nation. For those of you who don't know, I'll give a general sum up of the lore of Central Siberia. We'll go onwards. Tomsk led the Central Siberian Republic before. They had a war with, I believe it was Irkutsk and Yagoda. And during it, a bunch of people started breaking off. First, it was the Siberian Black Army, I believe. Which they have a new portrait. Okay. Another thing, Krasnoyarsk fell apart. Novosibirsk. Orotia was cut off from the Republic. Kemerovo, I don't know what the fuck they're doing exactly, but it's not, nothing typical of what you'd expect from that, no, if you played Kemerovo, you kind of know. But yeah, so for our own little unique thing, we have this little interface where we can go ahead and, influence nearby nations, which is very interesting, I gotta say. So, if I'm not mistaken, once our takeover progress over the region reaches 100%, we can diplomatically annex the target. Only neighbors can be influenced, and only Central Siberian warlords until 1969. So yeah, we can go ahead and influence these guys if we really wanted to, instead of having to go to war. Which is a very, very interesting idea. Man. So we have the conglomerates, which we'll take a look at real quick. The Phoenix Corporation is one of the three main economic forces within the Federation, and has long ties with Alexander Pakrishkin. As a federal arms manufacturer and distributor within the Federation, Phoenix is both the driving force behind and the beating heart of the Federation's sizable army. The corporation was founded by prospective Solovsky soon after the collapse of the Soviet Union. With their close relationship with Pakrishkin and their invaluable service as a provider for our armed forces, Phoenix Corporation is a natural friend of the government. So they're giving us some organization, some attack, and some army professionalism bonuses, which is very nice. Next we have Sibir. Associated with the mayor of Barnaul, the Sibir Corporation was founded by the landowning bourgeoisie following the Soviet Union's collapse. They represent and hold the principal shares of agricultural production within the Federation, and indeed, perhaps the entire Central Siberian region, not only producing agricultural products, but also the agricultural equipment, and surprisingly enough, act as a backbone for much of the Federation's financial institutions. Siberia is certainly the heart of the Federation's civilian industry. These facts, tied with Siberia's close association with civilian politicians within the Solovsk-dominated government, and tacit support for Vasily Shukskin, makes it an incredibly important organ of the Federation's economy. So we get a bit of a reduction for consumer goods factories and construction speed, and a bit more efficiency cap as of now, which is pretty nice. Next we have Titan. If Phoenix is a federation's muscle and Siberia is a beating heart, Titan is a federation's brain. The motto, simple and precise as a corporation's mission itself, is progress. This is what the Titan does best. Geared towards the furthering of the Federation's technological front, Titan has long been the front runner in the Federation's race towards mechanization and the furthering of all technology. Titan once directly competed with the modernists in Tomsk. Okay. So right now, they're not the most loyal, so we're having a bit of a penalty. So our facilities and academic base is going down, our research speed is going down. And next we have the people. The Federation does not solely comprise of corporations and resources that they produce. The Federation, and by extension her economy, are fueled by the people, the civilians that live under our administration. These people, from the lowliest rural peasants to the highest administrator within our government, have at least a nominal say in how we run things. It's important for us to be well aware of the status of our people, how loyal they are to our regime, how popular our administration is, and how influential they are within our borders. So we'll get some population, some poverty monthly change. Very nice. And some extra PP. Which I'll take as much PP as I can get, you know? And our primary goal is to successfully take over all nearby states in Central Siberia and then all of Russia itself. To do this, we must complete missions for warlords by paying them in various forms. This is done by pressing on a state in the above map GUI. In order to speed up the process as much as possible, we should attempt to become ideologically aligned. The closer we are to warlord ideologically, the faster our takeover will grow, and the more ideologically distant, the slower. We may view our current ideological standpoint by pressing the red button below this one. To take our current ideological standpoint, we may take focuses or empower certain megacorps. The stronger the megacorp, the more we will lean towards their ideology. We may view our current ideological drift in the button below this menu, this one menu, and hovering over the button. Megacorps are not just helpful to drift our ideology, but the more powerful a megacorp is, the easier it will be to assimilate warlords of that megacorp's ideology. However, should megacorp loyalty fall under 50, this will turn into a malice and not a bonus. And then we can go and investigate them. And ladies and gentlemen, we have the political compass. Oh, man. Wow. So we are radical centrists right now. Right down the middle. And then whoever we empower, we'll go ahead and help. Strong Siberia will make us more federal. Strong Titan will make us more corporatist. Strong Populist will make us more collectivist. Kemerovo. They lean towards the Phoenix. Okay, who do these guys lean towards? Siberia. Okay. What about these guys? Phoenix, Siberia? The people. That makes sense for them, actually. Yeah, lean towards Siberia and the people, I'm thinking right now. For this region. Tiumen. What about Omsk? Can't quite prove with them, but they're leaning towards Titan, interestingly enough. Okay! Let's take a look at our guy. Alexander Pakrishkin, the Siberian Falcon. So we get some air experience gain and some bad weather penalty reductions. I'll probably have to focus a bit more on Air Force than I'm used to. A legendary ace pilot in the Second World War and a hero of the Soviet Union, Alexander Ivanovich Pakrishkin would return to his hometown of Novosibirsk after the end of the war, hoping to live a relatively peaceful life. Little do you know where fate would lead him. Pakrishkin was content with the rule of the Central Siberian Republic and eventually found his way into government. Managing the city of Novosibirsk under the Republic was a relatively simple affair. That was, until the Siberian War. Soon he would be forced to put the entire city on a war footing to face Yagoda's powerful Supreme Soviet in the east. Rationing was introduced, conscription was increased dramatically, and the young men of Novosibirsk were sent to die on the battlefields of Siberia. At one point, Pakrishkin reached his limit. After making a backroom duel with Mayor of Barnaul, Vasily Shukskin, the plan was set into motion. The two men and their subordinates would seize Novosibirsk swiftly, organizing a new government, a government free of any influence and truly sovereign amidst the chaos that unfolded in Russia. Now ruling through an uneasy alliance with Barnaul, Pakrishkin needs to ensure his state remains stable. Even though it boasted a large population, industry, and functional agriculture, Novosibirsk still has its problems it needs to face, both internal and external. It's up to Pakrishkin to solve them all. So starting with national spirits, like everyone else in the region, we have the legacy of the Siberian plan. Our state lies in a unique region of Russia, the former area that Bukharin's and the Central Siberian Republic's grand industrial project was cited. Securing machinery and infrastructure and rebuilding sections of the Siberian plan will provide great boons to our statelet. Next, we have a disproportionate population, which gives us a nice boost in monthly population, but a not that nice hit to stability. Novosibirsk has always been one of the most developed and densely populated regions across the Urals as a hub to the Far East and a crucial link to the Trans-Siberian Railway. This city was already one of the biggest in Siberia when the Great Patriotic War broke out, but the conflict itself made it grow even more. Thousands fled the German occupation or simply the chaos that unfolded in Russian lanes, and they arrived in Novosibirsk, which was soon crowded with civilians. This can be both a blessing and a curse, but it's something we have to live with. Next, we have the All-Siberian Army. More organization, a hit to recruitable population, but negation of attrition a bit, which I'll take. The army that is responsible for protection of the region of Novosibirsk is easily one of the most powerful and prestigious in Central Siberia. When Siberian Falcon split from Tomsk's government to save himself, his people from the horrors of war, a large fraction of the army of the Central Siberian Republic pledged their loyalty to Pakrishkin and soon reorganized in the south. The All-Siberian Army has managed to reform into a force capable of rivaling even the largest neighbors of our warlord states. And the experience many men have from the Great Patriotic War and the Siberian War have proven invaluable. Finally, we have the Novosibirsk aircraft plant, which is a relic, which gives us some nice bonuses to close air support and tactical bombers. A major producer of both complete aircraft as well as their constituent parts, Novosibirsk and its aircraft plants are capable of rapidly producing considerable air fleet. Control of the city and plants will allow the state to apply this production towards its own aerial objectives. Well, there we go. So we got Dmitry Glinka. It was not that bad. More PP. That hit to recruit population is a bit not nice, but I'll take more PP. Strategic bomber, production costs. That's not bad. I'll take Georgy Langamak, Dmitry Glinka, Nikolai Skomorokov. Justify war goal time. That's not bad, except we can't justify war goals. Increases desire to be in a faction. Again, would be nice if we could actually join factions. This is all AI stuff anyway, so it doesn't matter. And then land fort construction speed. That might not be too bad, actually. Then we have Vasily Shushkin, who is conservative Democrat compared to the authoritarian Democrats that we are currently at. So, before we start with all that, let's get some research going. We'll have to catch up on weapons, I think. We're a little bit behind. We'll do that and that. Free civilian factories. We'll go ahead and build. We'll start in Novosibirsk because we have more infrastructure there. We'll build 2 civies here, a civvy here. And then, yeah, that's good for now. We got guns. Is there anything we need? Unassigned divisions. We have 5 guys. Let's see, for an army group, we'll give Alexander Novikov. We'll put him there. And then Nestor Kosin doesn't seem too bad. Ambusher, that's not too bad though. Fortress Buster and Engineer, that's actually pretty good. Ooh, Scavenger, Engineer, politically connected, kinda sucky. Ooh. I like Matvey Batrikov. So we'll put him in charge. Okay, stats all around. He's good at attack, which is what we should probably worry about for the imminent future. And so we'll put him, I guess, on Kemerovo for now. For mechanics, we have the Novosibirsk investigation. It appears that the Novosibirsk socialist agitators, including anarchists and communists, have grown bolder in their attacks. These terrorists must be dealt with by force as soon as possible, as we risk an uprising in the case of war. Our security services must investigate any lead possible, disrupt their operations, contain their threat before they can cause any massive damage. Many of our holdouts have already been located, and operations have been planned. The Federation is no home to terrorist scum. Very nice. We have the usual reunification stuff, raiding and looting, and then the Siberian plan, which I now understand better than when I had my Tomsk LP. Though, to be fair, in my case, they didn't have a localization. They didn't warn us that we'd have a bunch of anarchists rising up in my country for whatever fucking reason. I mean, I know the reason now, but they didn't tell me what reason it was at the time. Which I'm still slightly triggered about, but, you know, what are you gonna do? Infantry, anti-tank, artillery support equipment. Artillery, that's what we should, we'll get artillery building. We're building a little bit of everything right now. We'll go with that. And for national focus, there's only one we can do right now, so we'll go ahead and do the Land of the Strong. The Federation of Novosibirsk and Altai is the largest splinter state that's separated from the Central Siberian Republic, even rivaling its remnant to its north in terms of power and military might. Its president, the aviator Alexander Pakrishkin, who is commonly known as a Falcon, runs the state in an increasingly authoritarian manner. Novosibirsk has also been overwhelmed by the wave of refugees that came from evacuation eastwards, which has caused a multitude of issues. The Falcon and his government will have to find solutions to the problems that have started to torment its people if he is to unite the region. Not reunite, that's Tomsk who needs to reunite it. Let's get going. Up the speed. Hello? Game? Hello? There we go. It can be kind of finicky at times, like, you know. What are you gonna do? So eventually we'll scavenge for some loot, and then what are we gonna want to focus on? I'm trying to think. We're in a pretty damn good position. Our north flank is fine. Our north flank and our eastern flank are what we have to worry about. But we're good from the south, and we're good from the east. Barring raids, of course. Raids we still got to worry about, but anything else, we're fine. Really. You know, raids are annoying, of course, but when it comes down to it, it's not the worst. Alexander Murokin shoved his hands into the pockets of his jacket as he walked down the streets of Novosibirsk. His hands shook as he approached the warehouse. He glanced down the way he came, half expecting to see corporate goons following him. Up ahead, he could see a red ribbon wrapped around the light pole, the agreed-upon signal that the meeting was on. Alexander was taking the biggest risk of his life going to this meeting, but he was desperate. The factory he worked at had been bought out by the Sibir Corporation, and the new regulations they had imposed on him left him practically penniless. He could only just afford his room at the Flophouse and went without food on most nights. He knocked at the door in the appropriate pattern and waited. The door opened, he was dragged inside. In the dim light of a candle, he could see a group of 5 men and women gathered around what looked like the floor plan of a factory. The woman who dragged him through the door looked him up and down before gesturing him down the table. "Welcome, comrade. Tell me, why are you here?" she demanded. "To fight for the people of Novosibirsk and to end the tyranny of the Slovak regime," he responded. He'd read the pamphlets and attended a couple of secret meetings before this, though none as important as this one. The woman looked satisfied by the response, if not particularly enthused. The woman looked back at the floor plan before she spoke again. "Welcome, comrade Sini. We must prepare for your first assignment. The pigs at the Sibir Corporation have opened a new manufacturing plant for the production of top-of-line small arms. It will be our job to relieve the plant of its new manufacturing specs to cause as much damage to the plant as we can for now. Alexander, or Comrade Sini, as he was now known, felt his throat tighten as a submachine gun was pressed into his hands. Any second thoughts were quickly silenced by the fire he saw in the woman's eyes. This was for the people. It would all be worth it in the end. The revolution finds its roots in the young. Ooh, okay. Due to our efforts and the efforts of the SB, it seems we have successfully contained the Narodnik threat. The investigations by our agents and those undercover provided enough evidence for the arrest, and the raid could not have gone better. Despite a heavy firefight, many of our Narodniks have been put behind bars. It seems the rest have gone to hiding or fled Novosibirsk. We won't have to worry about any major damage in the future, and our government has begun to congratulate the efforts of those involved on the ground in bringing the terrorists down. With the Narodnik threat gone, we will no longer have to worry about our factories being sabotaged or rail lines being destroyed. Our federation is stronger than any who may want to topple it. They never stood a chance. Literally, they didn't. They literally stood no chance. Anyhow. Do some development if we so desired. I think I'm okay for now, but I'm curious. How's the compass coming along? Okay, we want to lean towards Siberia and the people for a couple of these. I'll raise their loyalty a bit just so we can get some more bonuses instead of hits. We don't have enough PP to do much for now, but the Reich's last conquest feels bad. I hear John Glenn shedding a lone tear over here. Hang in there, spaceman. We'll make it. What are we gonna want to do? Let's work on the champions of industry. Do we want to do that? Yeah, let's do that for now. Our one hallmark that distinguishes the Federation of Novosibirsk and Altai from the likes of Mystical King and Kemerovo, the Black Army and Kansk, the Republican Tomsk is the presence of corporations that dominate the daily lives of its citizens. The most dominating are the Phoenix, Siberia, and Titan, each specializing in these different sectors of the economy. The Phoenix, the most aggressively pro-Silovik of all of them, are the manufacturers of military equipment. The Siberia, who are vaguely aligned with Mayor Shukskin of Barnau, is a primary source of our agricultural tools as well as the leading financial experts. Lastly, there are the Titans, the leading pioneers and technocrats within Novosibirsk society. When the time comes, President Pakrishkin will have to decide where his allegiance lies. Perhaps down the road he may even choose the people instead. All is possible in the city where the sun sets. Let's do the business of a state. Of all the tales in the Russian anarchy, there stands but one that has spread from the frozen wastes of the Far East to the city of Kostroma in the West, and even deep into the lands of the Nazi Empire. The story of a wanderer from parts unknown who brings justice with them as they walk the desolate roads of old Russia. The wanderer has come to be known as one of the greatest enigmas of all of Russia. Little is known about this enigma. Some report they are a former ranger of Ural Guard, a man who left his home to bring justice to the worst of Russia. Others tell of a former Wehrmacht soldier, consumed by guilt and under a self-imposed exile as a penance for the people he wronged. A few scant reports tell of a widow from a destroyed village seeking to bring others to justice she was denied. Whispers in me speak of an American volunteer from the West Russian War stuck in a land not of his own but still doing good where he wandered. In the bars of Siberian cities, one can always find strange and likely drug-induced tales of a man from the future come back to save the world. Whatever their true identity and whatever their purpose in the corpse of a Soviet Union might be, all that is truly known is the kindness they have shown to a people so used to violence and death. tales told of a wanderer holding off entire bandit raiding parties single-handedly, liberated slaves from Perm, tell of an angel of light freeing them from their shackles before disappearing into the night. And rumors have even come from Moscow of one-man raids on Nazi strongholds. In the end, while many of these deeds are undoubtedly fictitious, the actions of his hero, this modern-day Bogatyr, have lit a fire of hope in the hearts of even the most trampled upon Russia. An interesting story, if nothing else. Guys, is that Lenin? Vasily Shushkin used to love sitting by the river Ob, back when he had first accepted mayoralship of the Barnaul in the infancy of Pakrishkin's new state. It was a beautiful time of unfettered idealism and shaky hope in a murky future, and in between debates and briefings, Ob's glimmering waters were always waiting for him. He would find a perch on the rocks, gazing out at the gently rippling waters and listening to the distant cries of birds over the murmur of the river. Idle thoughts would drift lazily into his head, or on some days he would scribble away at some unborn writing project, or simply lay upon the shore in a half-asleep stupor, dreaming of things to come. Now, however, things were changing. The waters were getting filthier by the day as more businesses moved into town, raising factories and more along Ob's Bay. Although the Federation and Shushkin's own values lay based upon freedom, he could not help but feel perhaps it was a leniency that had allowed these industrials to lay claim to his home. In several meetings, Shushkin had brought up his misgivings with the direction of the town's development, only to find many of his trusted aides in the pockets of the very same hounds preying upon Barnaul's newfound prosperity. Thus, he went on to the river once again to think. Shushkin felt conflicted with the idea of pushing the pocketed officials out, as he had gotten there through their own merit. Part of him felt it was vanity, the idea of holding something as trivial as the beauty of the nostalgic river over his own values. In the fields just beyond the river, however, he saw men breaking their backs for a day's wage dropped like crumbs by richer men. Was this corruption, in and of itself, a greater tyranny? Still, he would have to tackle this problem some other way. But how? When it felt only he could see Russia's pain. Is he all alone? Foreman Kostin had heard at first from Yegor, the miners with bright blue eyes, who had been at work in the mines over 10 years. Kostin had not wanted to believe it, but after the third retelling had begun to sink in, that the news was not mere rumor of Slovak propaganda. The Nerodics had been defeated, the leadership gunned down, or rounded up in a recent raid, the coda of a long and brutal struggle between the state and the socialists. Kostin angrily hacked away at his stone with his pick, wishing desperately that the reverse had been true. Capitalist oppression continued, and the dawn seemed very far away indeed. As he used his soot-lit blackened hands to load chunks of stone into the nearby cart, another thought occurred to him. Was the dawn so far away? Indeed, the Narodniks had failed in their mission, but so too had the state expended a great deal of time and resources putting them down. The Vasilovics were raw, vulnerable. Suddenly, Kostin grinned, white teeth flashing brightly in the darkness. The iron was hot, the workers furious. Perhaps a second revolt would be what was needed to bring the whole structure crashing down. The worker eternal endures all hardships. So I have a feeling we're not done quite yet with those guys. The evening passed Alexander Pakrishkin like a warm, sunset-tinged blower. The president of the Federation of Novosibirsk and Altai, to use his former long-form title that even he found cumbersome, was hosting a dinner to honor the veterans of the Great Patriotic War. A few of them were his friends, but all were comrades. In the neatly ceramic-tiled dining room, the bawdy jokes of the aces echoed down the silent halls, booming through the rooms of the presidential palace. Some of them did not partake in the festival occasions, however. Standing on the edge of the crowds were silent onlookers, whose faces were tinted with a colorless pallor of joy long lost. The war might have left Novosibirsk and Altai for now. For these, it was never left to them. Call it battle fatigue, shell shock, Pakrishkin sighed. There was no cure to the eternal affliction of soldiers. A hand tapped a soldier. Mr. President, a powerful voice thundered behind him, catching Pakrishkin off guard. Long time no see. The man looked askance at him, as if expecting a trigger to click in his head. The man stared, his voice quieter than before. We were in the academy before. You know, flight school. Oh, huh. Nice to meet you, Mr. Apologies, it's been a bit. Surely you can understand the occasional forgetfulness on my part. No, that's not important. I hand-waved his apology off. Still got your head in clouds? Pakrishkin arched a curious eyebrow. I don't seem to recall. Can I entreat you to enlighten me? No need. Pakrishkin watched as he left, past the crowd into the night. Curious fellow. Okay, so we kind of have like a bit of a dynamic going on. Hitler's almost dead. He almost fucking died. This guy, he's kind of losing his way and his idealism. Well, this guy is starting to find his idealism and starting to stand up for himself. That's kind of what I've noticed. As his old plane, a gift from the free aviators, weaved through the skies, Alexander Pakrishkin cannot help but reminisce about the war. He remembered the sounds of explosions, the shrieking of rending metal, and the screams of wounded men. He remembered the words of Horst Wessel lied, as the Germans blared it from every radio tower in Moscow. And last of all, he remembered the flight east, and the tens of hundreds of thousands of good people who had perished to the jackboots' inexorable march. Not all was lost, he told himself as he watched the ground underfoot, the ant-sized soldiers that drilled on top of it. He had this. Pakrishkin didn't want to be a leader to a flight squadron, much less a state, and yet those under his care had not only survived, they had thrived. Things weren't perfect, of course. The terrorists plaguing his lands were proof of that, but nevertheless, life was tolerable. He pushed the stick forward, a smile filling his weathered face as he dived down. He never really had time to fly these days, nor the opportunity. Always an AA gun from Tomsk or Kemerovo, always exact raiding party that strayed too far, always a foe that needed combating. But today was not one of those days. Today he was free. As he wheeled around to face home, Pakrishkin couldn't help but marvel at the city his forces controlled. The smoke of the factories of Novosibirsk was almost comforting, and the distant booming and lights of artillery that had once been terrifying felt in some strange way familial. He hadn't wanted to be a leader, but he knew that if he did not fight for his people, then someone far worse than he would. As long as he still drew breath, the Siberian Falcon would defend the people of Novosibirsk and perhaps one day all of Russia. Perhaps one day a dove will fly too. So we get some air experience, which is pretty nice. What do we want to do over here? I'll save up this power. I might try to focus on the Siberian plan. The worker discontent is medium. We'll implement some worker concessions, I think. And then we'll do that. That should be a net loss. Yeah, it's still a net loss to... Ooh, Hitler named Speer. Wunderbar. The Slovak state had a unique resource when compared to other warlord states of Russia. While others have to rely on ideological similarities or tense negotiations to work with other warlords, the Slovak state can dig their claws into a nation without them even realizing it. They can tip their rivals for unification in the direction of their own interests. This resource allows for the state to snake its way into the government of their rival, slowly aligning the opponent's interests with their own through a gradual takeover of several or all sectors of the government and even daily life. This resource, of course, is a vast and powerful business at the Slovak state's disposal, in addition to political, economic, and military pressure that they can put on their neighbors. See, corporations have a funny way of getting what they want from a country, its people, and its government, if they're more powerful than their targets or clients are stubborn. Economic pressure and integration is a mighty thing. And the first step to that oh-so-gradual takeover is that the Slovak state relies on to move forward. A bloodless, if a bit dirty, alternative. So that kind of tells us a bit about our mechanic and how we're aligning. We're leaning a bit towards corporatism. let's go ahead and increase some political pressure on Tomsk. So far, so good, actually. The Federation's cabinet room had hosted many important discussions of state, including military, social, and otherwise. Today, however, the focus was economic. Instead of politicians, it was corporate executives who sat across the ornate conference table from President Pakrishkin. Representatives from all the major firms operating within Novosibirsk, they had come following overtures from his government to discuss a series of potential deals that could be made. Deals that could, Pakrishkin knew, not only have a tremendous impact on the Federation's economic future, but also on the lives of hundreds of thousands of workers within it. He very much wanted to close these deals. But he also knew, keenly, that they would not come without cost. The men across from him were, to a one, sharks beyond measure in their field, a field in which he had held little experience. They would not agree to anything that would benefit him or the Federation without ensuring that it would, to a greater extent, benefit them. Pakrishkin was prepared to accept that. The Federation needed these men, and the organization that they represented. It needed their factories, it needed their capital, it needed their employment, and above all else, it needed their support. They could cause no end of trouble for him and his government if they opposed it, in any form. And so he flashed them a wide smile and began to speak. A mutually beneficial partnership? Very nice. I think we want to lean towards Phoenix, and then, what, the people, I want to say? Oh, these guys, Tomsk leans towards Siberia, actually. So, Siberia, and then the people. Yeah, I think that's the move. Let's go and do Siberia then. The Siberian Bear. The Siberia Corporation has a bit of an old history regarding its foundation. In the public image, it is associated with the mayor of Barnaul, Vasily Shushkin, one of the very rare civilian politicians that has found success within Novosibirsk's Slovak-dominated political system. Founded by the landowning bourgeoisie that had come into existence after the fall of the Central Siberian Republic, they produce agricultural equipment and have produced produce, as well as financial institutions that have helped many Novosibirsk escape the poverty of the working class. Their question is both political and economic. The Phoenix had been in a business relationship with the Federation since their founding. Signing contract with Siberia is a risk. However, Russia will not be at war forever, and military equipment will not help us against the grip of poverty. The president wishes to quell extremism within his federation, then the best antidote may be economic prosperity. I mean, it's the old saying, it's the economy, stupid. Speaking of which, what do we want to work on? Schools. What's everything at so far? Basic mechanization, usual stuff, it seems. I think we'll get working on new tools. Yeah. Comrade Sine walked through the brightly lit halls of the bunker. Here, in the headquarters of the anarchic movement, he felt free in a way he had never felt before. Though his youthful face was now marred by shrapnel scars, the smile on his lips could not be denied. His comrades stopped and saluted as he passed, a fact which took him by surprise, even now after months among the ranks. He walked into the deepest layers of the bunker, towards the command center. As he walked, he could not help but reminisce. His first mission with the Narniks had been a resounding success. The plant had been destroyed, and the weapon schematics had been vital to their continued successful movement. From there, Sine had participated in countless operations against Federation forces and the corporations they served. Magnates and politicians had fallen by his hands. Entire Federation supply convoys had been hijacked and diverted, and in one particularly memorable mission, he had destroyed an entire Titan manufacturing plant with little more than a pipe bomb and a well-placed bottle of American soda. Finally, he entered the command center. Every surface was covered in maps, mission briefings, and reports. At the center of this controlled chaos was the leader of the movement, Comrade Cherny. Cherny was an old grizzled veteran of the Great Patriotic War. "Welcome back, Comrade Sine. I hope you're well rested. It has come time to go forward with our our decapitation strike. The bastard Pakrishkin will be attending the demonstration of some kind of fighter plane. It will be your duty to kill the bastard. Sini was in shock. The magnitude of his mission eclipsed any he had embarked on before. Pakrishkin's death would be the culmination of years of planning. It all came down to him. He was ready. Pride goeth before fall. The question is, whose fall shall it be? We'll optimize, I think, consumer goods production. And just train one at a time. That'll be fine, I think. Take a sip of water. That's hydrating. I like that. And looks like a wholesome Keanu Reeves man is gonna die. The cleaning staff in the Siberia building had done a hell of a job, Georgy Langemak thought. It seemed that the polish touched every aspect of the building, inch by inch. A receptionist ushered him into a waiting room. I apologize on behalf of the Siberia Corporation, she said, apologetic. However, our executive officer is tending to a vital guest. I hope you will understand. The identity of the guest was apparent. It was none other than the notable or notorious, if one had been in certain government circles, mayor of Barnaul. Langemak had chosen today in hopes of slighting the mayor, but alas. However, the contract with the government shall sign with Siberia Corporation would bring them closer together. Langemak smirked. Pakrishkin knew how these corporations worked. The bottom line was far more crucial of the livelihood of these companies than infrequent visits from an eccentric actor-politician. He took a seat and waited, checking his watch in between reading magazines sponsored by the Siberia. Most of them were agricultural related, and most of them depicted golden fields of wheat, their grains undulating under the gentle wind. He waited for close to an hour before the receptionist returned, wearing a sheepish smile on her face. I'm sorry for the delay, sir, she said. Our guest just left. The executive officer will see you right now. About time. Take me to him, if you please. Certainly, sir. With scraps of pens and the thumps of stamps, a New Deal sign. This will lead us towards federalism. It's going to help us quite a bit with Tomsk. We'll go ahead and put some military pressure and some political pressure on top of that. And all of a sudden our ideological similarity is being cut down. Okay, that's strange. Wait, am I understanding this correctly? Maybe yeah, that's coming from Siberia. Maybe I'm... Let me look at the political compass. Yeah, okay. And next... So I'd rather not fight the Black Army if I don't have to, so I think we'll go ahead and do overtures to the people. People of Federation are restless. They look upon the power of the junta and the corporations with worry and apprehension. In order to placate the people, we should loosen the reins ever so slightly. It's not to say we will let them have free rein, but a lighter touch is perhaps the smarter way forward. First, we should lessen the restrictions on the press. Allowing a freer press will give the people a way to see the benefit of our rule. Of course, the proper content restrictions will still apply after all. It would be foolish to allow the slander of the Federation. Second, we will need to give the unions a slightly larger degree of autonomy. Giving the workers a state-sponsored union to air their grievances too will allow us to better keep them under wraps. These unions will, of course, only have so much power and will ultimately answer to the government. Finally, there must be a general de-escalation of repression against the middle class in particular. While they still need to be restricted, a lessening of restrictions will grant us better support amongst them, and will therefore allow us to better control the working class. Well, it's as good a start as any. Do some overtures with people, and I'm going to have to cut it here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you as always for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you're seeing more of this content in the future, go ahead and hit the sub button for more uploads every weekday, as well as every Saturday, or almost every Saturday. I'm trying. If you want us to keep track of all this, sub button, notification bell. Did I just say that? I might have just said that. I feel like I'm not doing good on my outros. I don't know what's up. If you have any comments, feedback, or support, leave in the comment section below. I read all comments I get and appreciate any all feedback you might have for me. If you want to chat or play games, I have a Discord. If you want to send a few bucks my way every month, I have a Patreon. If you want to see me do this sort of stuff live, I have a Twitch. So yeah, that's it for now, ladies and gentlemen. My name has been Dogboat333, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.